Hey YouTube, it's Sunday again, and I thought we could go through maybe some Marcion and Revelation and why it is that I'm going through the series again. First on Marcion's priority, some people had asked me some really good questions about Marcion's priority and what that series is about, etc., etc. Basically, the overwhelming majority of the consensus just crams Mark, Matthew, and Luke and John as early as it possibly can. As early, there's evidence that it can't date earlier than 71. It can't possibly date earlier than that, so they just slam it right up against that 71 date. There's also evidence that some of these texts could date as late as middle of the 2nd century, but they don't care. There's a huge range on these texts. They just slam it right up against 71 and try to force it to fit. And then you end up with all these hypothetical texts, et cetera, et cetera. And then you've got, apologists and all kinds of arguments as to how that could possibly work, which it really doesn't work without the hypothetical texts. You have to make up texts, essentially, to force this to fit. And that's what Marcion's priority is about. Marcion's priority was not excluded. It is not excluded. It is theologically excluded. The Christians absolutely say it's impossible, though it's not impossible. And not only is it not impossible, it's so blasted intuitive that once you get it into that front position with in order, Marcion, Mark, Matthew, and Luke, it answers all the questions of this thing. There are no hypothetical texts. We don't have to make up any phantom texts or anything. It just answers all the questions. And so what Marcion's priority is about, each video will present kind of a thread that kind of shows that Marcion's priority is not only plausible, but is the best explanation. And, it's kind of interesting. When I put out the John the Baptist video, I got into a discussion about someone that was kind of presenting to me some of the apologetics on it, and I actually did pick up some information there, which was really, really good. But that's the thing with Marcion's priority, is it's not going to be one argument when they're done. They're not going to have one argument. They're going to end up having to argue every freaking thing. They're going to end up having to say, that there are, we've got 15 different things that we have to force to work to blow up Marcion's priority. A whole bunch of things. So there'll end up being two options. Either Marcion's priority is 100% absolutely correct, or we're going to rely on a gigantic stack of apologetics. That's going to be the two answers when I'm done with that series. I want it blown out of the water. I want Mark's priority blown out of the water because there's no support for it. They have to make up texts for it. There are, I don't know how many ways they have, made up hypothetical texts and tried to rearrange this stuff to force it to work. It just doesn't work. But Marcion's priority is blasted intuitive. You put that in front, and then it just goes zip, 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 zip. You just see the threads, and that's all I'm doing with Marcion priority videos. I'm just presenting the threads. I didn't even get into that stuff until it was already done, until I had already figured out that Marcion's priority worked. So, I don't have to. I'm not making up arguments on John the Baptist or Mary, the mother of Jesus. One other question that had come up was about the Gospel of John, and I did want to answer that. The Gospel of John, I place in two positions, unfortunately. It is one of the earliest texts written, and it's before Marcion. At approximately 96 is what I've got it at. But it's also the most heavily redacted text. And the last time it was redacted was somewhere around 170, 185, somewhere around there. So, and there's no telling how many people wrote in this book. It looks like somebody just puked up big blocks of text in this gospel, though the parts that were original are still there. So, and when I've looked over the Gospel of John, I've looked over it so many times to try and figure out if I need to dissect this thing. Because there, like I said, some things are early and some things are very late, but I've found no reason for it right now. So I just take the Gospel of John and just slam the whole thing up there, because the late stuff really doesn't, it really doesn't affect my case one way or another. You know, not at this point. I haven't seen anything in the Gospel of John that that I have to worry about. There's one line that I think is definitely redacted, that, but it's so ambiguous that I don't even have to explain it away. So it's like, I don't know what to do with John. I just slam it into 96 and call it done, because it doesn't affect my argument. You know, not even the redactions affect my argument. Oh, one last thing on Revelation. The purpose of going through the Revelation texts again, I wanted to clean up, and I know a lot of you have probably seen the old Revelation series. I wanted to clean up any kind of errors that are from the old series, and I wanted to get a little bit more specific about the authors, because it appears that there are approximately 5 redactions. Five authors basically in this text, and I have been trying to put together a text that looks like what I would call the 70 redaction. It appears that this text was written somewhere in late 70 CE or early 71 CE by one author, but within a few months, that same author redacted this text somewhere in late 71 CE. He came back and redacted this text. So the very first author that put this thing together redacted it the first time. And he redacted it very quickly. And then after that, the next author is Presbyter John. It's probably going to be somewhere between 81, 96. I would lean toward 96 CE. And then you've got another redactor that comes along approximately 140 CE. And he is you might as well call him Montanist. I think I know who it is, but I don't want to pin it on that guy quite yet. But we might as well call this guy a Montanist author. And then the final redactor is probably Irenaeus, sometime after 172. Somewhere after 172. I'm not sure how late he wrote this, because Irenaeus redacts so many texts that it's ridiculous, and he's got a pretty good range to redact those things. Anyway, that's the first thing. I want to get into the authors, clean up errors, all that other stuff. And then after that, this text is going to, the text and the video series will take an extremely sharp turn. And you guys are going to be seeing stuff that you've never seen out of me out of Revelation. You know, I want that first part cleaned up. I want it as accurate as possible. And once that's done, we're going to go straight into something else, because Revelation is one of the coolest texts out there. It's amazing to me that that so many scholars look at this text and say, oh, it's trash. It's in my opinion, it's the most important text in Christianity. And once we get past the historical stuff, we're going into some really super complex theological stuff, and it's going to be really cool. A 10-minute video. Man, I ramble. I don't think I have anything else for you today that I can think of. Yeah, Marcion's priority in Revelation, that's what we're working on right now. And yeah, I guess that's it. Thanks, folks. Bye.